I started coaching just after I turned 16. And I've done that ever since. I actually started coaching badminton, and in India a lot of things are black and white when they're not. Oh, it's huge. If you don't have an online presence, nobody knows about you. There's people who are going to come from like software programming who can do Python and R, and data analysis and projections. They can find their way into football. But a lot of really passionate people, most of them were software engineers, which is quite common in India, I found. Yeah. Everybody was a software engineer.
What's up people, and welcome back to another Monday motivation video. I've got another Tiki-Taka episode for you guys this week, and in this week's episode Stevie Grieve joins me. Now those of you who have watched the Champions League broadcast in India will know Stevie Grieve as the guy who did the pre-show. But I can assure you Stevie's journey is more than just that. Currently Stevie is the head of opposition scouting and data analysis at Dundee United FC in the Scottish Premier League. In this part of the episode, Stevie talks about his journey into football, his time in India and the challenges he faced living in Delhi, data analysis and football, and much more. So make sure you watch until the end of the video to know about his journey into football and from Scotland to India and back. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You'd be an absolute legend because I'm trying to reach the 200 mark as soon as possible. Don't forget to turn on the notifications so that you get an update when I post the second part of this video. If you want to get involved, then use the comment section below to let me know of any suggestions or questions you want me to ask these professionals. If you like what you see, make sure you hit the like button and share it to anyone else who you think this could benefit. Don't forget to check out all of Stevie's socials. The links will be in the description. Welcome to Tiki-Taka, the series where you tell the world your story. We have different sections and each section is titled something football related. The first section is called Back Pass. And in this section, we take it back to the past to how it all started for you and your journey into football. So my first question to you is, how did football start for you and what were you doing before you became a data analyst?
I grew up in Scotland, so every kid grows up playing football. It's normal. It's like the national sport, basically. So that's kind of how you're introduced to the sport. And then over time, you get to a realization where you realize that you're not good enough to be a professional footballer. So you can either just stop doing the sport, or you can maybe become a coach, or you can come involved in another way. So I started coaching just after I turned 16, and I've done that ever since.
So you never played for any of the teams? And
no, I wasn't a professional footballer. I played at amateur level, I played youth level. I was quite a good player, but in Scotland it's hard to become a footballer because there are a lot of really good players. So yeah, like there's much better players than me who didn't make it. So it's no disgrace to not be a professional footballer.
It's quite interesting, but can you tell us a little bit more about how you started coaching at 16? Because not a lot of people get that opportunity.
I was playing futsal when I started playing when I was maybe 13, 14. And then over a bit of time, a few of the younger kids within the club started coming to me asking about how do I do an elastico, or how do I do a rainbow, and how do I do stepovers and things like that. Because I was good in tight spaces. So I would spend a lot of time like teaching younger kids how to do little tricks. And then they would do them in matches and stuff, and then I would go and help them. So I'd been doing that for a few months, and then the guy who run the local coaching company for the council, he got in touch and just asked me, like, do I fancy being a coach, starting it as a job? And then I actually started coaching badminton not long after it. I can't even play badminton. So that's how I got started as a coach.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Okay, the next question is, can you give us a little run through your journey from your first coaching job, all the clubs and all the roles that you had?
I started in the council. So I started off doing badminton just as an assistant coach, just to learn how to control a group and manage sessions and things like that. Then I did my first football class was 3, 4, 5-year-olds. After that, I'd been doing that for a little while. Then they gave me a class of older kids, 5 to 8. So I did that for, I don't know, like 9 years maybe. In that time, because I started that when I was 16. No, it wouldn't have been 9 years. It would have been, I have to work all this out. So I started coaching a couple of years later. I took my own team within a really big club called Letham. So they're one of the biggest clubs in the east of Scotland. So they gave me my own team. I took a lot of kids from the local community centres that I before, and then we did a tryout with like 60 kids, and then I picked like 3 or 4 from that and then added them to it. So we had like a little group of 12 kids under 9s. So I took them until midway through under 14s, I'm going to say. Yeah, I did that for a long time, and then I started coaching Dundee, which is our rivals. I coached their under 17s for a year when I was like 21. Before that, I went to America and worked in America for 6 months, which was interesting. I don't want to say I enjoyed it, but it was a good experience. So I did quite a lot of stuff up until before moving to India.
Yeah, and then in India, you had quite a lot of roles that people don't know about. Like, you're not just the guy who appeared on Sony 10.
Yeah, well, when I first moved to India, Anurag and Kishore just kind of said, look, have a look around, see what we're doing, try and find how we can make the best progress as quickly as we can. So I went around all the centres in Delhi, and they all had the same sort of problems. The structure of a session wasn't great. The way it was organised was too rigid. I tried to give a little bit more flexibility to the sessions. My main job was head of coaching and coach education. So the biggest thing was always to try and create a structure within the club, within the academy, try and educate the coaches within how we want to try and firstly teach and run sessions. Secondly, what do we want to get? What do the kids want to get out of the classes? And then how can we keep them within the club for longer? Because one issue we faced when I was there was a lot of turnover. It overhauled quite a lot of stuff in the first 6 months. And then after that, it was more just a case of creating the structure for after I was going to leave. And obviously during that time I was doing the TV as well.
And this was at the Bhaichung Bhutia football schools?
Yeah, so the three main guys are Anurag, Kishore and Bhaichung. There's a guy, Sunil Patwal, he's like the chief mentor. There's some other guys that work behind the scenes, like logistics, organisation. But a lot of really passionate people. Most of them were software engineers, which is quite common in India, I found. Yeah. Everybody was a software engineer. So I found that quite quickly. PE teachers, there was quite a few PE teachers.
All right. Okay, so after that, what led you into the line of work that you do? So right now, obviously, you're a data analyst and head of opposition scouting. So what led you into this role?
Well, the first thing is, as a coach, you have to be an analyst. So the shirts behind you, if you watch things that Real Madrid do, there's things that you can apply to your team. There's Liverpool, I've got some ideas, things that you can apply to your team. Same with Barcelona. So every game that you watch, there's things you can take through analysis. If you don't really understand how to do analysis, you're going to have problems because an analysis is going to give you ideas. So from being a coach, you have to become a good analyst. With being a good analyst, you then have to create processes for making a game plan. So my current job is I need to go and watch the opponent a few times, put together a report on the players and the team, and then put together some ideas of what the game plan could be, what would be the most important things to do and what's the most important things to prevent, and then present that to the staff on a Monday.
And it was just a natural progression for you to go into the analysis side of it.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, like I'd been doing consultation work for different coaches and different clubs for a long time. So people would ask me for a 1-game project, or it might be a 3 or 4 game project, or it might be they would ask me to go and watch all their team's games for 6 months and look at what trends that they have and give them some examples. So, the head of the academy and the manager both spoke to me and asked me if I'd be interested in an analysis role. And yeah, I would. It just depend on what would my level of responsibility be and what my involvement with the first team. So I don't know if it's a natural progression, but if you're able to do both sides of the job, it gives you more opportunities. And it's hard enough to break into football at professional level. So if you don't have enough skills, then it makes it harder for you to find the way in.
That's very interesting because you never really consider that. I mean, from here, especially in India, when we don't consider that it's hard to get into coaching. So you need to have other skills just to stay in the line of football.
Yeah, I mean, there's people who are going to come from software programming who can do Python and R, data analysis and projections. They can find their way into football.
All right, that's very interesting. Okay, the next question is, what is one thing you wish you knew before getting into football?
How to use a computer. I spent so many hours just now learning R or learning how to use Tableau, all these sorts of things. I think if I was really, really good on a computer, it would probably have progressed me quite a lot.
That's not the answer I was expecting. All right, with that we end the first section of Backpass and we move into the second section that I call Remontada. Now from the name you can probably tell that this section is all about comebacks and mental health in football. So the first question on that is, personally, what were the biggest challenges you faced in your journey?
I'd probably not been able to drive. I only learned how to drive a year ago. So that was probably a big factor of not being able to do certain things. I remember being offered a job when I was in Switzerland that I really wanted to take, but it would have meant driving maybe an hour and 10 minutes twice a day and couldn't drive. And it's easy enough to get around Switzerland with public transport, but not being able to drive was a big issue. Like, I don't want to say not being a footballer has been an issue, because I mean, 99.9% of people that aren't footballers are ex-footballers, so it's not an issue. But not being able to drive until I was 32 is probably a bigger factor.
Wow, this is totally not going how I imagined it to go. All right. So the next question is, what effect does mental health have on the performance of a player, and do the stats show it?
I don't think stats can tell you if a player might be suffering from depression or anything like that. You would have to see that in training. You'd have to see that in their just general well-being. I can tell you just from what I understand about the illness, it's most people in football are good at hiding stuff. So even if somebody, is suffering every day at home, coming to work and they'll put it and they'll be the life and soul of the party. It's not something stats would ever tell you, but mental health is one of the most important things in the world, not just in sport.
All right. So you're saying that it doesn't reflect on their performances. They're still making the same number of sprints.
It probably does, but not like you wouldn't say somebody's pass completion rate's gone down because they've got depression.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. All right. If you do find a player is suffering from any sort of mental challenges at the professional level, how do you all approach it?
Personally, I haven't had to deal with it myself. What I would imagine is most clubs have somebody they can talk to, whether it's a physio or somebody from the medical. One of the first team staff can put you in touch with probably somebody who's a psychologist, like a permanent psychologist, stuff like that. So I know it's something which is quite big in Scotland, so I'm pretty sure they would go to the manager and the staff, and then they would work out a process to try and help them from there.
Alright, it's quite interesting, because here in India there's a lot of stigma towards, like, it's either you're weak or you're called crazy.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that across the world. It's just people don't want to talk about it because of that sort of stigma. But I mean, from my understanding, in India, a lot of things are black and white when they're not. A lot of it's to do with education, and there's not enough education towards most things which are not academic. You can grade somebody on maths, but you can't grade them on their mental health.
Exactly. Okay. The next question is, what mental challenges have you faced in your career, considering you've traveled all over, and how have you dealt with that?
I mean, there's obviously periods of loneliness because you're on your own for long periods of time. But I think once you make the decision that you're going to move away from your home and move into a country where you don't speak the language or you don't know anybody, you kind of have to be comfortable in yourself. And luckily, like my wife, she was there for 6 months in India. She was there for 3 years in Canada. She was there for 2 years in Switzerland. So I only had 18 months where really I was on my own in India. But at the same time, I was always working like 100 hours a week, so you don't really have time to think about it because you're focused on getting up, what's your task, complete it, go home, wash, shower, change TV, sleep for 4 hours, go to work. So it's one of those things where everybody has the challenges of feeling isolated or feeling lonely, or I don't want to say regretting things that they've done, but always thinking, like, could you have done it differently? So I actually hear this quite a lot. I see it on Facebook quite a lot. So it's easy to move abroad. Yeah. It's easy for people who've never moved away from their home to say that, but when you actually have to put in all the processes in place, 1, to get you out of the country, 2, to get you in the other country, and then 3, to get you settled before you even start your first day at work. And then, like, when I lived in Delhi, like, I went to Hozkaz market to get meat. I would go to Saket Mall to get my groceries, and then we would go to, like, Vasant Kunj Mall for other stuff. Like, it actually took until there was a food hall opened up in Saket Mall with a supermarket with everything that I wanted in it, to stop me from travelling like 3 hours around Delhi to get my shopping. And people don't know these things because they don't experience it. You can just go to Tesco. But in India, when I was first there, you couldn't do these things. So, like, just basic everyday things they become a grind. Even like in Delhi, in terms of mental health, like, you're driving around and there's kids, families living under bridges of every intersection. It is difficult to see, but it's never going to change. So you can't get down about it. It's not going to change in the time you're there. So you have to kind of get on with it.
All right. Okay, so that ends the remontada section, and we move into the next section that I call halftime tactics. And this, we switch it up a little bit to talk about the other side of football. And the first question is, how important do you think it is for coaches and players to build up their online presence?
Oh, it's huge. If you don't have an online presence, nobody knows about you. You need to get up to speed with online marketing and actually publishing your work, because it's not enough to say now that you think you're good at something. You have to prove it.
But there are also the other side and the bad effects of it on players.
I mean, if players come out and say stupid and stuff, people are going to slaughter them.
Yeah.
That's the nature of it. But that's not just players, that's everybody. So I think if I was a football player, I wouldn't be on it publicly.
All right, that's interesting. And it's also important for the endorsement side of things, right? Sponsorship deals and whatnot.
Aye, but if you're Cristiano Ronaldo and you're getting a sponsorship deal, you have your PR team doing
Fair
your
enough.
social media for you. You're not wasting your time with it.
Fair enough. All right, the next question is, because of your type of work, how much does technology help you in your job?
Oh, yeah, it's massive. You use technology to download games, you use technology to code them, you use technology to upload them, you use technology to film it. It's part of your everyday life.
So you're all for the technological changes in football.
Yeah, adapt or die. That's how it is.
Also the devices like the GPS tracking and all.
Aye, like that's for the fitness coaches. That's not for the analysis stuff.
All right, so you are not into analysing anything about your team?
Well, I analyse our own team, but I don't analyse their physical data because that's not for me to do. That's for the performance staff to do.
All right, okay, that's quite interesting. And the last question in this section is, what was the one most influential piece of technology that people started using in football?
I wouldn't know, to be honest. Probably just video analysis, because it allowed you to go and watch the opponent rather than rewind tapes from weeks ago. And now you can cut it, code it, paste it, do what you want, and create presentations. So things like PowerPoint and Keynote are really important every day just now.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, because it's one of the most basic things that footballers started to use, turned out to be one of the most influential. Okay, so with that, we end the halftime tactics section of the interview and we move on to the next section that I call recovering possession. That's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got some value from watching this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button and stay subscribed and turn on notifications so you get an update when I post the second part of this video. Also, be sure to let Stevie know on his Twitter if something in particular inspired you from this video.